Welcome to the Brute Strength Podcast, bringing you worldwide experts from all areas of health and fitness. We cover training, nutrition, coaching, and mindset. Welcome your host, strength and conditioning coach, 2012 and 2013 CrossFit Games champ, Michael Bilyeu. Mind, body, brute.
Hello and welcome back. This is Mike Bilyeu and you're listening to the Brute Strength Podcast. This week's guest is the co-founder of Quest Nutrition and Impact Theory, Lisa Bilyeu. Lisa has got to be one of the most inspiring women on the entire planet. We talk about how she went from housewife to the co-founder of a billion-dollar company and then went on to build a media company that has over 300 million views. We talk about the early days of starting Quest Nutrition's trials and tribulations, as well as successes. We talk about how she overcame imposter syndrome and fear of failure during the early days, doing tons of different roles and tasks that she was totally unqualified and untrained for. We talk about her debilitating health problems and how she's not only overcome victimhood, which she has every right to be in, but ended up using it as a strength. We talk a ton about mindset, relationships, habits, and much, much more. Guys, if you are a fan of this show, I would really appreciate it if you would share this with a friend and hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for listening. Enjoy the show. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael.
We've been trying to put this together for a while. I'm glad that we can finally sit down and chat.
Yeah, me too.
So you went from, and I'm using your words, you went from housewife to the owner of a billion-dollar company. And since then, you and Tom have also gone on to create a media studio with over 300 million views and so much more. I want to dive into all of that. But before, what was life like for you before starting Quest?
Well, when I was younger, I had really, really big, grand dreams of becoming a movie director and winning an Academy Award, being the first female to do it. And so when I met Tom, who also had a background in film, we just had this big dream and desire to really, make it in Hollywood. And then, kind of reality hits on how difficult it's going to be and how other people have control. So even if it's your own script, you don't actually have control over the art. So for us, we had developed this idea of, okay, well, let's go out, let's build a business, let's earn enough money so that we can then really control the assets. And that turned into 8 years of me ended up being a housewife. So it was not intentional whatsoever. I started with big dreams, and over time, every single day, month by month, year by year, I just told myself it was in greater good of our bigger mission. So my husband went out, he was going to work, I was going to take care of everything else. This was like our big plan of how we were going to, earn money together.
Okay.
And it ended up turning into 8 years of me being a housewife. And every day I found things to fill my day up to make myself feel good about myself. And before I knew it, 8 years went by and I was a housewife. And so when my husband came home and said, hey, I've got this great idea for a protein bar company, I just initially played the wife role. And I was like, cool, I'm here to support you. How do we do this together? And so he's like, can you ship some bars from our living room floor and help make the bars by hand? So, I kind of was like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And that was really the start of me starting in the business world. As time went on, I started to make more and more bars and ship more and more bars out. And because I was really the only one who knew how to do the shipping, I ended up just keep on going. And within 2 years of me shipping bars from my living room floor, I ended up running our entire fulfillment and shipping department, where we were dealing with $84 million in inventory. And I was hiring forklift drivers. I ended up having 40 employees under me in just my shipping department alone.
Wow.
And so that was all within a space of 2 years.
So I have some more questions about that. I want to put a pin in that. Let's back up before you guys ended up starting Quest. So from everything that I've seen from researching you and just watching you over the years online, you seem like an incredibly driven and ambitious person. How did that? So you're calling yourself a housewife, but exactly what were you doing with your day that allowed for you to scratch that itch and keep from becoming bored or apathetic?
Yeah, it's a great question because everything's kind of in hindsight. So in those moments, I was really focused on we're going to make movies. So my husband was going out to work every single day. And we looked at, okay, who are the most successful entrepreneurs or business people and how do they live their lives? Because if you're trying to be the best, you need to look at who the best is and see what they do. So we literally sat down and looked at all the incredibly successful people. And we looked at people like Steve Jobs and we said, okay, how does Steve Jobs live his life? Obviously back when he was alive. And what we saw was things like, for instance, he understood there's only a certain amount of decisions that one person can make in a day with pure clarity. So he would just choose the same black t-shirt all the time so that he didn't have to use up an ounce of his brain capacity to a decision. So we said, okay, well, what if I'm the decision maker? What if I do all the personal decisions from what we're going to eat, where we're going to go, what the house is going to look like, how the bills are paid, everything on our personal side, I'm going to take over. And he's going to then use all his decision making into just the business. So we took it to the extreme where he would get up in the morning and his gym clothes were laid out for him. He would go to the gym, he would come back, his work clothes were laid out for him, and his lunch was already made and prepared for him. So he didn't have to make any decisions so that he could really go into the business world and crush it. So I had built my self-esteem and confidence around being the person that was the facilitator. Now, this wasn't a dream of mine at all, but I had to self-soothe on a daily basis. And that's all in hindsight, right? Looking back now at how I managed to sustain 8 years of being a housewife when I actually had no drive and no passion whatsoever to do that, it was self-soothing on a daily basis. So I found pride in things like being able to facilitate my husband, being able to make all other decisions, making sure that the house was running smoothly. But also, as that was going on, I was very aware that I didn't like to call myself a housewife. So then I had to have that discussion with my husband. It's like, look, I can stay focused on this dream. I can stay focused on doing mundane things every day in order to serve a bigger mission. Like, I can do that, but it doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't make me feel good to call myself a housewife. So we just gave myself another title. I called myself the president of Bilyeu Enterprises. Now, of course, Bilyeu Enterprises was basically our house. But I just gave myself a title because I was very aware of, okay, if I'm going to stay on this mission of helping my husband and us in it together by building our finances so we can make movies, I have to stay focused and I have to stay driven. And right now, being a housewife or calling myself a housewife was not allowing me to stay focused on that because I was just getting too caught up in my own emotions of how being a housewife made me feel.
That's totally understandable. So having gone through that experience, is this something that you would recommend to others? And if so, why?
No, I would never, ever recommend that. I would recommend the path that we took in regards to breaking things down and looking at, if you're in a partnership, that is, breaking things down and saying, what is the mission that you're both on? Like, what is that agreement that as a couple you guys are making for what your life is going to look like? Now, it doesn't have to be business. It doesn't have to be obviously movies. It can be a family. It can be, I want to have 5 children. Whatever that is, the first thing I would say is discuss that so that you guys are always on the same page. And then kind of act accordingly. Because I needed something for myself to focus on, like the bigger picture. And if I wasn't bought into that bigger picture, I don't know if I would have been able to get through the 8 years. But saying that, when I look back now, I think to myself, I could have done things differently instead of feel like I was just waiting.
Right.
I was kind of just waiting that 8 years, right? I was finding things to fill my day with to feel good, but in service of something that was maybe never going to come. Now, it so happened that my life changed and altered and Quest developed and became what it was. But that was not a guarantee. So if someone right now is living a life where they've got a mission and they're working towards it, but they're finding each day being very mundane and not fulfilling, I would not suggest that you keep down that path. Now, if that mission is still very strong for you, I would recommend that you absolutely stay true to that, but find different ways to get to it. Because like with Quest, it was a success, but there was no guarantee that it was going to be a success. Mm-hmm. There was no guarantee. So now what if I'm miserable? I transition from being a housewife into another business and I'm just as miserable. Then what? If I'm living every single day unhappy, like that is not a fulfilling life that I want. And I have come to that conclusion now in my older years in hindsight. But I would have absolutely have gone back if I could and shaken that woman awake because I didn't realize I was asleep. And that was the problem.
Such incredible advice. One thing you said is that it helps to have basically a vision for where you're going as a couple. And what I've noticed is that 99.9% of people are constantly in a state of just fixing things that are wrong rather than setting their sights on something that they can both work towards. I think that is one of the biggest lessons for any relationship and for yourself personally, right? If you don't have something really big that's compelling you to get up and keep putting in hard work, it makes life a lot more bland.
Yes, 100%. And when you're dealing with your partner, if you guys are just not on the same page of what you both want in life, then there are going to be moments where there's going to be hard decisions to make. And if you're not on the same page about making those hard decisions, then I feel like that can be detrimental to your relationship. So for instance, if Tom and I were not on the same page, that we were both in it with Quest, right? Okay, we're going to do what it takes. What does that mean? We're going to sacrifice romantic time. We're going to sacrifice evenings together. Okay, do we both buy into that strategy? And if the answer is yes, when a time comes, which many moments came, but one example was it was date night. We hadn't spent quality time together for a long time. We booked this time off. It was Saturday night. I spent like 2 hours getting ready, doing my hair, my makeup. I was so excited. We get in the car, we book dinner, we pull out of the driveway. And as we're pulling out, we get a phone call saying that one of our production lines is down. And now they need help. They're like, we don't know what to do. If we didn't act, we would have lost $5,000 because that's roughly how much a batch cost at the time. Mm-hmm. So now we look at our life and go, okay, well, am I going to be resentful towards my husband or towards the business if now we have to cancel our dinner and go and fix the problem? Or am I going to remind myself that we were both in it to win? And we both agreed that we were going to push the company to be as big as possible with every ounce of power that we had. So now if we'd agreed that, and here I am holding it against him for canceling our date night, now we're not on the same page of actions based on the mission we had agreed on. So when that happened, he turned to me and he's like, I've got to go to the production facility. I've got to fix this. And I immediately was like, absolutely, I get it. And even though I was emotionally upset that we didn't get to have our date night, I didn't want to hold it against him. I didn't, judge him for it. I wasn't upset. I wasn't angry. We were both in it together. And so things like that, because it will come to a head. There will be moments, again, going back to like, if it doesn't have to be business, it could be, a lifestyle choice, or it can be, a child that you want. If in that moment the child ends up needing to be first and you guys have discussed, okay, our kids come first, then there's no animosity between the two people, that, the married couple. Mm-hmm. But if you guys haven't discussed that and then the situation comes up, there's a massive possibility that you're going to be in big disagreement, and that's going to cause a fracture in your relationship.
So if you were to give some tactical advice on how to start this conversation and what that should look like, what would that be?
This is exactly what me and my husband have done, and we've been together now. We've been married for 16 years, together for 18. So we went from, broke kids to building the company, and then, now where we are. So I've actually lived this. And so the first key is to sit down as a couple in a moment of unemotional angst. So you're in a really safe place, your partner's in a safe place, you guys are connecting, and you say, okay, what is the thing that you selfishly want in life? And we actually did this. So don't think about me. Do not think about what I've said in the past. What do you selfishly as an individual want? Now lay it all out. And what do I, as the wife, selfishly want in our relationship? Okay, so now you've got all of those. Doesn't mean you're always going to get them, but you've laid it out. There's nothing hidden. There's no secrets. Then once you say that, and say, okay, what do you plan for as our family? Where do you see us in 5 years? And you both have this feedback that you're giving each other of what you personally want. And then you say, how do we make this work as a couple? Because if Tom wanted to be an entrepreneur, and he wants to go out and he wants to dedicate 20 hours a day to his business, which roughly right now he dedicates about 19 to 20 hours. That's how much he works. And I say, okay, I want to be, let's say, I want to be a stay-at-home wife and I want 5 children. Okay, how do those both coexist? Because there's going to come moments where if I want to be a stay-at-home wife, but I'm expecting my husband to be home at 6 o'clock, is that actually going to be possible? Because the truth is it might not. And so if it's not possible because one person wants to be out and about for 20 hours a day and the other person wants a family at home, what are the things that you both are going to do to make it possible? Okay, from Monday to Friday, you don't have to be home, but I absolutely want you home on a Saturday to eat with me and the family. Okay, is that satisfactory with both of you? You know, kind of really, and that's how much I break it down. That's how much me and my husband, we break it down, our business, our relationship. So if we're going to build this business, I want to be, independent as a woman, but I also want to be a business partner. What does that actually look like? Like not the fairy tale version, not the, oh, it'll be great, we get to work together every day. It's like, no, the truth is that if we don't both have certain positions within the business, we're going to come to head. And then that's going to sadly, inevitably run into our personal life. So break everything down, be uber transparent, and don't worry about the other person initially. Like, don't worry about trying to please the other person on what you want. That will come later. You just need to get out, what you're looking for, what your partner's looking for, and then together figure out how you can make that work as a team. And Tom and I, we did all of this, and then we said, okay, we want to build a business. Are we both in? And we both need to put our hands in a pile and say, yes, we're both in. Does this mean we're both willing to risk our house? So if the house ends up, we have to sell it, which is true story. What we ended up having to put on the line for Quest was we had to put the house on the line. It was like, okay, no BS. If we do this, what is the worst case scenario? We could lose our house. Are we both in it? Like, are we both bought in that it's okay to lose the house? Mm-hmm. Because what we didn't want is down the line for me to ever be resentful towards him and him to ever to be resentful towards me. Because our number one is each other, not our business. So we laid everything out on the line. Okay, if we lose the house, it's no one's fault. We know that we did everything we possibly could. Okay, what does everything we possibly could mean? It means that on date night, if something happens, that we have to put the business first, that we have to, possibly put the other person second while we go through this transition of trying to build the company.
Such tremendous advice. This is almost exactly what my wife and I do. We make our 10-year goals and then we share them with each other and really start to work for making the others come true, right? And if the other person sees, like when I see her really encouraging me and making my goals come true, I just have to reciprocate. Like I just feel such a strong desire to reciprocate and make hers come true as well. It takes vulnerability. It takes a large level of discomfort at times, but it is so worth it.
Yeah, and I think that's where you're so right. That's where people get stuck. It's uncomfortable. It's sometimes tough to say the hard things. It's sometimes tough to call people, your partner on it. It's like, hey, look, we had an agreement and you said this and now I'm holding you to it. Like that's tough to do. But if you don't, there's no, in fact, I won't say if you don't. If you do, you find that it can really strengthen that bond, because you can rely on the other person to call you out for the good of yourself, right? So we call it emotional sobriety. Sometimes I will make decisions or think a certain way, both based on my emotional state of mind. But I know if I can guarantee that my husband, my partner in crime, always wants what's good for me, no matter what. If I truly believe he wants 100% what's good for me, and that's always his driving force, then when I'm not emotionally sober, I can turn to him for him to give me, let's say, clarity, and vice versa, right? Holding each other to what we say when we are emotionally sober is quite hard, because when you've got someone that's super upset or super frustrated or down on themselves, and you have to call them out, because of something they told you maybe a month ago that they wanted, and you can see that they're actually not working towards it, it's hard to do. But yeah, when you can find a partner that you can trust to actually do that, and you can be open to receiving it, it can honestly be the most incredibly beautiful thing that a relationship can have, in my opinion.
So let's go back to you being in charge of all of the shipping for Quest. I assume you didn't have any extensive training in this area. What was it like for you? Maybe talk about if you had any imposter syndrome or fear of being in that role, and how you dealt with it.
Yes, I had absolutely no experience whatsoever. So I had gone from, I'd got a degree in film, then got married and became a housewife. So as Quest started to get bigger, and I remember transitioning from our living room floor to a garage to finally an office. I was at the office every day, and then finally I needed to hire someone. And I did not know how to be a boss. So I absolutely had everything you just said. I was shit scared. I had imposter syndrome. I have no idea what I'm doing. But the driving force for me was, okay, Lisa, you didn't know how to ship bars from your living room floor, and you figured it out. Okay, great. So you don't know how to be a boss or hire, but I've just proven in a very small scale, I've just proven that I can attack something that I didn't know how to do and achieve it. Okay, so that was a win for me. So now when I hired someone, it was, okay, well, how do I do this? And every day I just failed and figured it out. So, okay, that strategy where I bought, my teammate lunch. Okay, that actually really showed that I cared about them, and that actually made them work harder. Okay, so if I start now investing more in my employees, how will that affect the business? So every day I went in telling myself, Lisa, you don't know anything. But I didn't let that destroy my ego or my confidence. And that was kind of this great reinforcement loop that I started to get into. So I don't know something, I can try something, I can learn from it, whether I succeed or fail at it, I can always learn. So the next day I can use that lesson and apply it for my next, task or whatever I need to do. So I started to do that more and more. I started to find that, wow, this strategy worked. Oh my God, I can't believe how awesome this turned out. Or like, oh my God, I completely failed. But what I learned was that the worst case scenario that I had envisioned actually didn't happen. So all these fears that I had about failing or looking bad or, appearing like I didn't know what I was doing, all of these fears that I had may have come true. But the worst case, like I didn't die. The company didn't fall apart. My life didn't unravel. So really the worst case was what? Okay, maybe I got a little embarrassed. That wasn't a big deal. Maybe someone saw me fail. Okay, and what? So I started to learn all these lessons, experiment, try new things. As I was hiring more people, we were in Compton at the time. And for people that don't know, I'm 5'1" and obviously British. So I'm now in Compton. I've got these employees that are actually ex-convicts because my husband started to hire people based on their drive and their passion and their want to succeed, not based on who they used to be and where they came from. So that was also powerful for myself to see, like, okay, I'm not going to judge myself on who I used to be or where I was. I'm going to judge myself on what are the things I can learn and where do I want to go, and am I achieving those things? So I was going through this personal transformation while I was hiring these ex-convicts that were like the best, most incredible humans I'd ever met. They were driven. Now, look, this is some people, obviously not everybody, but I met, some incredible humans that were convicted of drug dealing, theft, abuse, physical abuse. And here they were being the most incredible people, motivating me, getting the job done, because no one had ever given them a chance before to get better and improve and live the life that they really wanted. So I saw it firsthand in other people, and I was experiencing it myself. So as time went on, within those 2 years, I kind of just kept going with positive reinforcement of, even though I was failing a lot, I was still getting better. And that's how I ended up, within 2 years building that department. I had no experience in inventory, dealing with G&C, with freight control, with imports and exports of goods and ingredients. But every time something came my way, I just told myself, okay, Lisa, you don't know this yet.
Right.
But you can learn if you really apply yourself. And when you've got the pressure of, hey, if you fail, time and time again, or not even if you fail, if you don't put the energy needed, if you're lazy, all of these things will have a knock-on effect, and that knock-on effect, maybe you lose your house. Are you okay with that? And the answer is no, I'm not okay with it. I don't mind losing my house if I put every ounce of being into it and I still fail. I'm okay with that. But I'm not okay with losing my house out of being lazy or out of insecurities or out of fear of failing. I'm not okay with that. And so yeah, that's kind of the thought process on how I ended up pushing myself to getting where I was. It wasn't because I had an innate skill. It wasn't because I'm, born different or had a great opportunity. None of that. It really was, hey, are you willing to fall on your face, get back up, dust yourself off and get better and learn? And my answer was yes, I am willing to do that.
And what's one of the most interesting things about humans, high performers in general, is that every single person experiences that same thing. If you really peel back the onion on some of the most successful people, maybe all of the most successful people on the planet, you'll find this same level of insecurity at times, fears, self-doubt. And I think one of the biggest differences between high performers and everyone else is that when the average person is in the face of this kind of seemingly insurmountable fear, they tend to self-destruct because it seems like it's an unconscious way to control the situation. So they'll put themselves in a circumstance where they just cannot succeed, and thus they're able to control the outcome rather than just trying as hard as they can, trying to learn from the experience, and then allowing themselves to fail along the way and learn from it and just get back up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100%.
So early on in the Quest days, you had a bar batch that went very wrong. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I absolutely love this story because there are so many times that things are going to fail, whether, again, you want to own your own business, you want to be a coach, you want to be a trainer, you want to be a stay-at-home mother or father. There are going to be many times in life that we just fail along the way. And the question is, how do you deal with that failure? And this story is a great example, and I use it to remind myself of perspective is everything. So we're early days of Quest. Like I said, it's $5,000 per batch. And that was so expensive. I mean, every penny we had, my husband and I and his business partners, we put into the company. We were all in. And so losing $5,000 meant like that's one step closer to shutting the company down. So we'd gotten to the stage where we were not actually making the bars personally anymore. We had hired, I think, 2 or 3 people to run our production line, and we were able to concentrate on our marketing and our shipping. So it was, I think, maybe, week 3, production starts running, and the guy comes into the office and he just looks horrified. He's like, "I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do, but we've messed up a batch." And so we're all panicking. "Oh my God, what do you mean?" So we run into the production room, and what they had done is they took our peanut butter bar and they put all the ingredients together, but they put the wrong flavoring in. And instead of putting our peanut butter flavoring in, they put our mixed berry flavoring in. And so it was all wrong. It tastes wrong. And so, one perspective is, "Oh my God, my company's going to go bankrupt. How on earth am I going to, tell my friends and family that, one of these big mistakes has finished the business?"
Mm-hmm.
That's one perspective. Or the other perspective is, how can I actually make this the most amazing thing that's ever happened? And so we're standing there in the production facility. We're trying this weird flavor bar. And my husband turns around and he's like, "It kind of tastes like PB&J." And so we're eating it, and we're like, "Yeah, it actually does taste like PB&J." So we're like, "Okay, how do we use this?" So we wrapped all the bars in plain silver wrapping because, all our bars have designs and stuff like that. We wrapped it in silver. We printed out the nutrition because you can't ever sell anything without the macros and nutrition information. So we printed it out. We put them in plain boxes, and we put out a big blast on our social media and said, "Guys, limited edition trial for a protein bar flavor. There's only 200 boxes. So limited edition. It's a prototype. We don't know if we're ever going to make it again. It's on sale now." We sold out within an hour.
Wow.
200 boxes. We'd sold out faster than we'd ever sold out before. We ended up getting so many people that had bought the bars, loving them, that we ended up going into full production of our new PB&J bars. We've got wrappers made. We've got wrappers designed. And for a while, it was our most popular bar sold.
So was the conversation, how can we make this the most amazing thing ever? Or was it, how can we salvage this? Did y'all actually have the wherewithal to say, okay, that's amazing?
No, we did not have the well.
Oh, okay.
People it's all now looking back. At the time, it was like, "Oh my God, how do we not lose $5,000?
Right.
But I guess still that is somewhat perspective, because you've got the people who sit there and go, "Oh my God, I've just lost $5,000. Or you have someone sitting there going, "How do we not make this result into 5,000?" Right? And that perspective is now something that I absolutely use in everything that I do, in every endeavor, in our new business. It's just like, okay, how do we switch this around? Or using the Tony Robbins thing is, how do I turn the worst situation into the best situation? And usually that's where the fun and the crazy ideas come out that you never would have thought of otherwise. Mm-hmm. Now, look, sometimes it ends up just being a complete failure, and there's no way to spin the downside to losing $5,000, except for, hey, that was a great lesson that we just learned. What new strategies and techniques do we have to implement so that we don't end up losing $5,000 again?
Right. And in that case, you would have lost it anyway. When you're asking that question, how can we make that, turn this into a huge win? You were gonna lose it anyway. So if you can spin it, then that's a useful thought experiment to just do something where there's nothing. One of my favorite Tim Ferriss questions is, in hard times, to ask yourself, what would this look like if it were fun? Right? Because if we can make it fun, then there's some value in that alone. And if it ends up, being financially a good decision financially, or whatever the instance is, then that's just added benefit.
Yeah, 100%. And that applies to anything in your life. If you can just look at, for like Tim Ferriss said, for 2 minutes, just flip the switch, ask a different question, and then see. If it doesn't work for you, great, move on, and that's fine. But just in asking the different questions, for me, gets me a different result, and it's so powerful. But in that moment, it's really hard to do because you're so emotionally distressed and traumatized that it's hard to get out of your own head.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the moments you have to force yourself to ask those questions. Don't listen to your emotions. Don't listen to what your mind is telling you, all the negativity. Like, you have to force yourself. And that's where the toughness is, but also I think that's where the biggest breakthrough is.
So at one point you were so sick you couldn't even eat any of the Quest products. What happened? What's the story there?
Yes, that is very true. About 3 years ago, and everything is kind of figuring it out since then. But what I figured out is I had around 15 years of limited diet. So I heard that carbs were bad, so I restricted them. I heard fat was bad, so I restricted them. So for a long time, I was on just a very high protein diet. Not understanding that our immune system is carried 70% in our gut, I was getting sick a lot. And so because I was getting sick, I was taking a lot of antibiotics. So over, let's say, around a 10, 15-year period, I was on a restricted diet and I was taking antibiotics. And so I found that over time, eating became more problematic. Certain foods were more distressing on me. And literally one day, it felt like my entire intestine ruptured. And this was at the height of Quest success. And here I was, I couldn't eat. Like, I couldn't eat, period. So every day was just a struggle. And I was losing weight. My hair was falling out. My nails were brittle. And I didn't know what was going on. I was extremely scared. We didn't understand what was happening to me. I was going to every single doctor on the planet. Everyone was saying, these are the best doctors. And every doctor I was going to, they were saying, oh, this is your problem. This is your problem. So over time, I was actually getting worse because the doctors were telling me, don't eat this, don't do this. And so I had gotten down to the point where I was eating about 4 to 5 ingredients for 3 to 6 months. And when I say ingredients, I'm considering salt as an ingredient. And it had gotten to the point where even just putting pepper on my food was, my husband literally almost rushed me to the emergency room. And so the whole period of my life was extremely difficult because not only could I just not eat, obviously that was having massive effects on my hormones and my emotions. And I was, running at the time, I transitioned from our shipping department and I built our studio, our media department at Quest. So I was at Quest every day. I was working 12, 14 hours a day and I couldn't eat and I was literally falling apart. And I was embarrassed because I didn't want to tell anybody, being one of the owners of, one of the fastest growing nutrition companies in the world. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. And so I hid it. And, looking back now, that was, I shouldn't have done that. But I had held my identity so closely to my company that I wasn't able to really embrace what was happening to me. And when I say embrace it, in the sense of instead of just trying to fight it, I needed to embrace it and say, okay, this is what's happening. And now I need to get on the path of fixing myself instead of being ashamed, sweeping it under the rug, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been fighting that for the last 3 years. I am at the stage now in my life where I'm able to eat a lot more, but I still have massive issues. I go pretty much every week with chronic stomach cramps. I've done microbiome tests. I've right now actually got a permanent glucose monitor attached to me to see if there is any correlation between stomach cramping and pain and nausea with my glucose levels. So I'm still on the journey. I have definitely not come to the end, but I don't see myself as being a victim anymore. I don't see myself as being sick as part of my identity. I don't succumb to my pains and tell myself that I'm weak. I use it as something that can empower me every single day. So if I try something and it doesn't work, I just go, okay, that's another, tool in my tool belt that I can use for the future that I didn't know. I'm more wiser for it. Because I was sick, we ended up developing a show called Health Theory, where we bring on experts to talk about the new studies in health, whether that's new machines that are being developed, like, permanent glucose monitors, or new studies, new things that we're just discovering now. So lots of amazing, incredible things have developed from me being sick, like the show, like the company, and then also my mindset. Has made such a difference, because I can absolutely succumb to my hormones because I'm not getting the right nutrients. I can absolutely succumb to the fact that why me, that this sucks, but that doesn't help me, that doesn't help anybody else. So it's actually, in being sick, has made me stronger as a human, and has made me own my situation, and has made me take control of every aspect of my life. And I find that empowering. So now I find that my health is actually my own, is in my control, like with having my glucose monitor. This is something that I've developed myself, not the actual machine I've developed, but the theory. Okay, well, is there correlation? Doctors aren't looking at it. So, hey, I may as well test myself. And things like that are just giving me the reins. And that's where I found the most empowerment. Is this isn't up to anyone else. It's not up to the doctors to find my cure or to figure it out. It is up to me to look into things and experiment and try and go out and see what is working and what's not. And just that mentality has changed every aspect of my life, and has seeped in to my business and my relationship, and the fact that it is all in my control and everything is my fault. And if I can use that to empower myself, because some people, it doesn't empower them, it actually can bring them down. But for me, if I can use it to empower myself, then nothing can stop me. And I love that thought. I love that thought, that I can cultivate the best relationship possible because it is in my control. That I can build the biggest business that I ever envision because it is in my control. And I can take my health eventually to be the strongest because it is in my control.
Can you talk a little bit more about this? Everything is in my control, because some things like the market or how other people behave are obviously outside of your control. So how do you marry the two of those? What do you mean by that?
Right. Yeah, it really is. There are going to be a million things, absolutely, that I have no say over, right? From the weather to, like you said, how someone else reacts towards you. Like, that is not in my control, but I can control how I respond to it. I can control how I react to it, and I can control how that then affects me and my life. So, for instance, my health is a perfect example. Initially, and everyone was saying to me, "Oh my God, poor you! That wasn't, what do you do? It's not your fault. How can you control this? You can't control the food that you eat, and my stomach having a reaction to it." Okay, that's the truth. If I eat right now, a piece of cake, and my stomach goes into this disarray, can I control how my stomach is reacting to it? No. Okay, really, in that moment, I can't. But the truth is, I can control how I react to that problem. So everyone was like, those doctors, I can't believe they gave you antibiotics. Like, they knew better. Now, I can blame the doctors, but what does that do for me, right? It puts me in the victim mode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that doesn't help me. That doesn't help me get better. That doesn't help me get healthy. And that doesn't empower me. Okay, well, if I want to be empowered, how can I look at this in a different way? I can say, you know what, Lisa? You were the one that chose to take the antibiotics. The doctor said, taking too many isn't good for you, right? We've all heard that. But did I ever look into why it wasn't good for you?
Mm-hmm.
No. Did I ever question it? Did I ever say, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be taking this many. Did I ever say no to the doctor? Did I ever, all of this is in my control. And if I look back and say, how do I empower myself? It's really to say I can do things differently next time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not blaming myself. I'm not saying, Lisa, this is all your fault, in the sense of you're sick because, in fact, maybe I am. I am sick because of the actions that I chose. In fact, I'm going to own that. But I'm not going to beat myself up over it. And that's the powerful thing. I'm not going to say, shame on you, Lisa. You need to, slap your wrist and you are a worse person for it. That doesn't serve me. But it does serve me if I look at that situation and say, I could have done things differently. And now that I know I could have done things differently, I'm going to be better for it in future. That's why I need to take the ownership of it, because I can change things in the future.
That's such a powerful mental shift for people. One of my favorite terms in yoga is equanimity, or even meditation. Equanimity, the ability to maintain kind of a calm internal environment amidst stress, anxiety, or chaos going on around us. We all have the ability to train our minds to be calm despite anything going on in our lives. It takes things like hearing a podcast like this, hearing someone actually overcome great excuses to be in a victim mode. It takes that. It also takes practice sometimes through meditation, through rejuvenation, through things like yoga, through journaling, but it is absolutely possible. And it's so awesome to hear someone as successful as you really overcoming it. You would never know. Like, you would never know that this is going on with you because you don't use it as a crutch. You're overcoming it and using it as fuel.
Thank you. Yeah. And, the key there is that I could use it, right? I could use it as a crutch, 100%. And going back, you even just said, like, I would have every right to. I could use it as the biggest excuse and nobody would judge me for it. And that's where we all slip. And that's the trick where we all get trapped into victimhood, because sometimes we have every reason to be a victim.
Every reason.
But and so when I look at it and go, I've got every reason to use this as, why I shouldn't or why I can fail. But the truth is, forget about everyone else. Does it serve me? Lisa, does the reason that you're using right now serve me as a human or serve my goals that I said I want to get to? No. If the answer is no, then why would I do it, right? Like, even if it's easy, like it would be acceptable for me to put myself in the victim category, but it won't serve me. So when I blink in 10 years and I look at my life and I say, am I where I wanted to be? And if the answer is no, and I look back at the reason why, it's going to be because I put myself in the victim mode. I know it. I've already played that scenario out. I've planned out what that would look like. And so before I don't want to get to the point where I'm 10 years ahead and looking back and saying, God damn it, I could have done that, but I didn't. I want to act now. And so even though it's easy for me to put myself in the victim mode, it won't serve me and it won't get me to my goals. And the only person then who's going to suffer is going to be me in 10 years.
So I know that one of your goals is to, and you've talked about it on this show already, is to push yourself as hard as possible in your career, but also while taking care of your health. Can you talk about what it takes to strike this balance?
Yeah, it's very difficult for me because I hate the word balance. I'm one of those people, I know a lot of people are saying it, but I hate the word because I want to be all in my business. Like, I really do. I enjoy it so much. I love it so much. I love everything we're doing with the female empowerment space as well. But the problem is my body cannot keep up. And my because of my health, because of the nutrition that, I just can't get enough nutrients some days, that I feel dizzy, I feel weak, I have to work lying down. I have to be very aware that my mind isn't going to necessarily help my body. So I have to force myself in order to try and find somewhat of a balance in my life. And it all goes back to reminding myself, what is that goal? And right now, the way that I am servicing my body, is it going to help me get to that goal or not? Like, I think of it like a car, right? If I'm not getting regular checkups, refueling, I'm not very good with cars, so I can't really give many analogies. but if I'm not like tuning my engine or whatever, the chance, I'm not going to be able to go on that long distance drive. And so even though it's not a natural thing in me to slow down and take care of my body, I have told myself that if I don't, I can't do that long distance. I can't build the studio. I can't build the company the way I want to build it if I'm not taking care of myself. So because it's not innate in me, I've just implemented things on a daily basis as if it's part of my business. I made it a point of taking care of my body like it's a task I have to do for work. So I make sure that I eat dinner on my own. So we work out of my house. There's around 20 to 25 employees that come to our house every single day. We have studios, we have sets in our house. So it is all inclusive. And so I need to make sure that I'm not always around that. So for dinner, I make it a point. I've announced it to the team and the company. They all know. I leave and I take my dinner up to my safe space, that I like to call it, and I eat dinner by myself. So I have implemented things like that into my daily life that has now tried to take care of my body, but also allows me to push in my business. And again, I hate the word balance, but I am definitely having to rebalance the way that I live my life. I don't want it to be 50-50. I have no intention of my life ever being 50-50 split, but I do have to readjust those weights because it's not doing myself justice or any service.
So we have a lot of really driven type A people that listen to the show, and they're really into working hard on bettering themselves, both personally and professionally. And they're very yang. I think they struggle with the yin for the most part. What are 2 to 3 habits? What are the most important habits that you have in your life that allow you to continue being so driven, so productive, and creating new things all the time?
Yeah, that's a great question because I love asking the question too. And the answer I get a lot from other people is they like to meditate and they do yoga and things like that. So I was like, great. Even though I used to be the really like lift weights and, yoga's really easy. Like I was like, okay, look, you've had it enough, Lisa, that you need to actually go and just try it for yourself. Because clearly what you're doing isn't working. Your health is still declining. And like you said, like I want to play on a very high level, on a big stage. So for me to do that, I have to adjust. So I tried yoga, I tried Pilates, I tried meditating, and I actually started to feel bad about myself that it wasn't working.
You weren't good enough at it.
Yeah, right, exactly. And, everyone, like people that I've spoken to, who I very much respect, they're like, meditation has changed my life. And so I'm like, okay, teach me how to breathe. And they would teach me, I would try it, it wouldn't work. And so I would go to somebody else. And so I started to feel like, oh my God, all these incredible people are saying meditation has changed their life. And here I am, I can't meditate. Like I've tried multiple different ways. I've really gone all in and I'm not feeling how everyone else is feeling. And then I just, over time realized, you know what, you need to do what works for you. So you have to test things. And I think that's another thing is listen to all these people, find someone that you admire and try what they do, but don't be so dogmatic that it has to work if you're not feeling the same sensation they are. So for me, since then, I've tried meditation, didn't work. I've tried things. Recently, I'm doing a cold water challenge.
I saw that.
And I don't know if anyone's heard of the Iceman, but he's absolutely incredible.
And, the Iceman is Wim Hof, for those of you who don't know. Wim Hof,
yes, thank you. He's so incredible. We had him on our show here. And so he was doing this 30-day challenge. And so I thought, you know what, that sucks so much. I kind of want to do it just to test it. Because again, high achievers are saying, oh my God, immersing yourself in cold is done so much for the brain and it's supposed to help like longevity. So I was like, you know what? Okay, step out your comfort zone, give it a try. Thinking that I would just despise it, every ounce of it. Now, the second I get in the shower every single morning and I turn the handle, I still hate it, but it does something to my mind that I never expected. It's making me breathe a different way. It's making me focus on my breath. It's making me focus on, and I actually do this. I try to focus on changing my body temperature so that it doesn't feel the cold. So this is what Wim Hof talks about. So I was like, okay, well, look, the power of the mind, right? If I believe I can, I can. If I believe I can't, I can't. So I'm going to get in the shower. I'm going to ignore the fact that my body is shivering. I'm going to tell my body to stop shivering, and I'm going to breathe deeply, and I'm going to make this water warm. Now, I've been doing this for about 15 days now, and it's incredible. Like, it's been such an amazing experience for me. I've figured out the deep breathing. So now I get in the shower, and after about 4 seconds, I don't feel the cold anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I don't know if I can actually raise my body temperature, but about 2.5 minutes in, it feels like the water is lukewarm. So I don't know if that is me actually changing my body temperature or not. But sorry, I kind of like derailed a little.
No, this is perfect. This is perfect.
These are the things that I'm finding is getting my head focused, is allowing my body to connect with my brain, is letting me to really put those two together, block out all the noise, not think about the emails I haven't gotten to, not think about the shoots that we've got. Like, it is making me shut out everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is what people are talking about when they meditate.
100%.
So I found what works for me. And so I wouldn't have known that if I didn't try it. And so no matter what you're hearing other people do, try it, and don't feel bad if it doesn't work. Try something else. But the thing I won't do is I won't give up. Like, I'm on a mission to make sure that my body keeps healing and that I can still push my business as hard as I possibly and humanly can. And so I think that comes down to finding what works for you. And you're going to have to go in and try. Like, I wouldn't have believed anyone. If you told me that no, meditation is not going to work on you, but getting in a cold shower, which you hate, is going to work, like, I never would have believed it. But I tried it, and it actually did.
Oh, that's so cool. And yes, I would agree. Exactly. Like, what cold showers are giving you is exactly what people describe with their best meditations. And what freezing cold water does is it forces you to make a decision. You can either have panicked breathing and spend the entire time just miserable, or you can slow your breathing and develop that sense of equanimity that I was talking about before, and you will literally, it will bring you into such a small, like, defined moment of presence. Like, you are just so focused on your breath, everything else melts away, and it's a really blissful, nice feeling.
Yeah, it's true. And I never also thought, I've heard a lot of high achievers talk about starting your day with a win. And so I've, Jim Quick's a good friend of ours, and he always says, make your bed. It's your first win of the day, right? No one else can take that away from you. If you decide to make your bed in the morning, make it. And I kind of feel like that with the showers, the cold showers, is no one else can affect me, right? No one can force me to do it or not do it. It's not thanks to somebody else. It is either I did it myself or I didn't do it myself. And when you're standing in that shower and your hand is on that handle, and I go straight from dry to turn the handle all the way to cold, and it hits me like right in my face. And I'm standing there, my hand is on the handle, and no one else can do it for me. I actually did initially turn to my husband and say, can you do it? And then I stopped and I was like, actually, no, I need to do it myself, because it's the hard thing to do. And so if I've managed to do it, or when I managed to do it, I've managed to do the hard thing, and it's a win for the day. And no one, no matter what happens in that day, no one can take those two things away from me. And so I've really found it powerful there as well, which I didn't expect.
So in our last few minutes, I want to talk a little bit about impact theory. So for those of you who don't know, one of the mottos for impact theory, the media company that you started, is if Disney is the most magical place on earth, then impact theory is the most empowering place on earth. And when I talked to Tom a couple years ago, it was just before y'all had announced the release of impact theory, or you guys starting it. And now it has over 300 million views across your channels. So what was the impetus for this in the first place?
Yeah, so there's a little overlap. So impact theory actually started off as a show at Quest. So we built,
gotcha.
I transitioned from our shipping department to building our media department. So I built a studio within the company, and we were doing commercials, and we were doing shows and hiring influencers and things like that. And our mission really was to help people, like no BS, really help people. And our Quest bars were amazing to help people lose the weight, or to be honest, it really helped the diabetic community. It really helped the anorexic community, because people were turning to our bars as, in essence, the gateway back into eating calories, which was incredible. But there was still a massive portion of people that we weren't helping. We started to realize it was all about the mind. If you were depressed, if you had anxiety, you were not turning to a Quest bar to eat healthy. You were not going into the gym. You were not getting out of bed and making your life better. So when we sat back and said, okay, really, what is our mission? And if it is to help people, you need to help people on a 360-degree view. Like, it can't just be one aspect. It has to be both the body and the mind. So when we started to look at the mind, we developed this show where my husband was the host. And so we started to do content. People were taking clips. And I don't know if you ever saw the Simon Sinek millennial video.
I did. I loved it.
Okay, so that was us. That was our show.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really realized what impact the mind was having on people as well as the body. And so Quest was doing incredibly well. The bars and our products were, running like clockwork and very smoothly. And mine and my husband's passion was definitely in content. That's where our path goes. He went to USC Film School. I had a film degree. And so, we played the no BS game, and we're like, all right, no BS. If we really want to make a difference, what does that mean? It means you have to create content that can reach people all around the world. Okay, if we're going to actually create content around the world, we do this interview show. But the interview show is like telling people to, let's say, eat chicken and broccoli.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there's going to be some people that want to get the six-pack abs that are willing to eat the chicken and broccoli, so they're going to do it. But there are people in the world who don't want to do that. They want to have food that tastes good and is good for them. So what's that version of content? It's movies, it's entertainment, right? The talk show is only going to be for a certain amount of people that are going to sit down and want to make that mind shift.
Right.
But everybody, just like everybody loves the taste of food, everybody pretty much listens to, music, watches television, and watches movies. So we said, okay, well, if we really want to tackle the problems of the world, no BS, what do we have to do? We have to build a studio that's as big as Disney, that can reach people, that is all doing empowerment content. So things like we would have made like Wonder Woman, Karate Kid, things like that have mindset behind it,
mm-hmm.
but is primarily based on entertainment. And our first step really was to build that in-house. So we started with a comic book, because a comic book is very visual. It can tell empowerment stories. And then you can use that to then develop into an animation series, a television show, or a movie. And so our first comic book we partnered with Steve Aoki, who's a good friend of ours. And we're talking about the future being future optimists. And so we released our first comic book. That's super exciting. And we're just doing some deals now, trying to get that made into a movie.
What's the response been with the comic book?
Incredible. Right now, it's been amazing, largely because obviously we have a celebrity attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
And because for an indie comic book, we've absolutely made sure that the artwork, the visuals, and the storytelling is way above and beyond your regular comic book. So because of that, because we want to tell movies, we have in-house people that have experience, that have that type of voice that, we could. So my husband, for instance, he wrote the first script. And so we're elevating the type of content. And so as we released it, we had a lot of traction from other comic book fans and stores and distribution outlets, because there is no really there's no other indie comic book out there at this caliber. And so for us, obviously, that's a big deal. We very much want to bring high value to our customers. But it is an evolution. And so our next thing is I'm actually developing a female empowerment graphic novel, where I'm taking real females, like real influencers, real stories, and showing that they're the superheroes of today. So like people like Sarah Blakely, Sheryl Sandberg, Oprah Winfrey, just incredible human women who have actually had to go through ups and downs in their lives, Like, to me, that is the real superhero story right there. So so we're basically, there's a lot that we're working on the fictional side of things, as well as still doing our main show, Impact Theory. I have a show called Women of Impact, where I also interview just incredible women, and so that's the non-fiction side of it, as we're developing the fiction side of it on the back end.
So fucking cool. So my last question is, who do you want to have on your show, Women of Impact, that you haven't already? And what do you want to ask her?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. So on Women of Impact, that's a hard one, because this is one thing I actually battle with on a daily basis, is who do I selfishly want on versus who do I think can bring the most value to my audience? Because they're sometimes different answers. So selfishly, like, if I could close my eyes and just like have anybody on, it may be Jodie Foster.
Okay. Why is that?
So when I was in film school, I did my entire last year dissertation on women in film and the transition of women in film and the people who were breakthroughs. And I think that Jodie Foster was absolutely a massive breakthrough for women in movies. She transitioned from being an actress. She also went into directing and producing. And I love the strategy that she was able to use through fame to then really gain control, to then open doors for other women in the film industry. So I have the utmost utter respect for what she has done for women in film. So from a personal standpoint, I'd just love to go for dinner with her, to be honest.
Sure.
But from what I think could bring the most value to my audience, I don't want to be cliche, but I will say either Oprah Winfrey or Sarah Blakely. I just think they are both extremely incredible women. And I know I'm kind of cheating a little by kind of putting them together, because you did say one. But I think that they are women that have achieved such grand things, all the while talking about their failures, their problems, and their faults. Because I think that is so fundamental for every person, not just women, to really hear that it doesn't matter what failures you have today. It doesn't matter how bad you may be at something right now. If you look at these incredible women, you will see that it is possible to achieve greatness if you are willing to overcome things. That they're the most incredible women to show that they have had problems and failures, but yet they have still been able to achieve the most incredible things in life. So I don't know if I think I cheated a little on your question, but
you did, but I'll give you a pass. That was a really tough question.
Thank you.
Great, you still did great with the answer. I would have to believe that for both of those women, their level of authenticity, their vulnerability about their struggles has to be such a big part of why they've been so successful, don't you think?
Absolutely, 100%. And we used to live in a world, for me growing up, I used to live in a world where, there wasn't really much social media. So, everything was movies. And so they literally, famous people were larger than life, right? You would go to the film and their heads were, on the big screen. So you would think of them as being larger than life. So you almost inevitably feel as though they're untouchable.
Right.
But I think that, with social media and the way society has changed, you've got people like Oprah and Sarah Blakely who are saying like, no, I'm not larger than life. I'm human. I fall on my face. I fail. I struggle with weight. I struggle with insecurities. I struggle with confidence. And even though I struggle with all these things, I can still get to my goals. I can still build something so incredible. And that is such a powerful message that I think everybody needs to hear. And that is why I'm so passionate about A, the show Women of Impact, and then B, the graphic novel that I'm putting together, because I want to tell those stories. I want to say, to be a superhero, you have to overcome, you have to endure, you have to pick yourself back up. And this is real life examples of people that have done it, not fictional, but real life people that have done it. And I just find it so incredibly motivating.
Well, for those if you're not already so aware of this, you are that person, right? You are exactly that type of person. You and Tom are two of the most inspiring people I've ever met. And I'm wondering, when you guys are lying in bed at night, are you still speaking at 2x speed, so like loudly and passionately?
It depends, because it's easy to get into the habit of always being business. And so I try to create my life so that there's different spaces. So from typically Monday to Friday, we are in work mode.
Yep.
Even when we go to bed, it's like we're both, who can get into bed quicker, who can switch the light off quicker, and who can fall asleep the quickest. Now, normally it's him, because he just freaking quick at everything. But on the weekend, that's when we say, okay, this moment is left for just us.
Yeah.
Just the husband and wife that are in love. We don't want to talk about work, because here's the thing, he actually started to slip into our personal life becoming about work.
Right.
So I was telling him this wonderful story. I was very passionate about it. I was all excited. I can't remember what it was, but it was something about a friend. And he's like, okay, get to the punchline. And I just looked at him and I said, babe, we're in personal mode now. If I want to spend 30 minutes not getting to the punchline,
right,
and I want my husband to just sit there and listen to me, like, that's what I need. If we're in work mode, getting to the punchline is very important, because time is money. And I know that's cliche, but it's freaking true. So it's about really like separating the spaces, coming up with rules. Like, we have very clear rules of when is work time and when is not.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we will call each other out if we accidentally slip into it. So literally last night, I'm brushing my teeth, and he tells me about a problem with a camera op that we have, that was supposed to go with him, but that's out sick. And I just looked at him and I said, look, this is, our business, but I'm brushing my teeth. So, okay, well, it's still Monday to Friday. So does that mean that he shouldn't talk to me about work? Or does that mean he should talk to me about work?
Mm-hmm.
So we just really refine things over time. Like, each scenario, you just have to figure out and go, okay, well, it's business. So yes, but don't do it while I'm brushing my teeth, because that's personal. And so we come up with rules of engagement, and we evolve and adjust every single day, every month, every year of our relationship.
Amazing. Lisa, you are a badass. Thank you so much for your time. Where can people find out more about everything you've got going on?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on. You can go to impacttheory.com. That actually has a slew of all of our content. We have impact theory that's for the mind. We have health theory that's really, I was want to say the body, but actually it really is the mind and the body combined. And then Women of Impact is a show that I do. So that's one main hub, impacttheory.com. To follow me, you can go to @Bilyeu. I'm primarily on Instagram. And then @Women of Impact, we have an Instagram page there that is all about female empowerment. So yeah, you can check out any of those.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Michael, thank you so much. You too.
Ladies, if you want to grow, strengthen, or injury-proof your booty, we have something awesome for you. It's really hard for me to take myself seriously when I say things like grow your booty. But seriously, we have something awesome for you, and it's called the Brute Booty Playbook. This is a short ebook that includes 24 different exercises targeting the glutes for stability, injury prevention, and strength. We have common mistakes that people make when trying to strengthen their butt. And we include some of our favorite movements, like the elevated sumo kettlebell squat, glute ham raise, goblet side lunge, etc. And all of the movements in this ebook come with technique videos, so you know exactly the right way to do this. So you can get free access to this by going to brutestrengthtraining.com/booty. That's brutestrengthtraining.com/booty.
This episode is finished, but your training journey continues. Head over to brutestrengthtraining.com/SSW and grab your free pack of 32 accessory workouts that you can incorporate into your training and start improving your strength immediately. That's brutestrengthtraining.com/SSW.